Hi, everyone. It's me, Tim. Today I want to talk about insults and backhanded compliments. I kind of mean this in a fun way. Not sure this is going to be a fun Friday video or not. You know what? I'll just let it go up whenever it goes up. But lately I've been going through all my notes, and I guess what I should call my archive now. I was looking for a particular thing, but it's kind of vague, so searching wasn't helping. So what I was doing is I was reading through all my daily notes, the ones I tended to write down at the end of the day, plus some meeting notes. And I take two kinds of meeting notes. I write in a list of topics I want to go over at a meeting. But then frequently when a meeting ends, I'll append to it, and here's some of the responses I got, so I can remember them later. So I was going through those looking for another topic, and I noticed some trends, I should say. I found 8 times that I was insulted in a meeting to my face, and then 3 more times someone asked to meet with me and then gave me a completely backhanded compliment, and they meant well. And I actually asked a friend of mine if I should do this video, and he said, yeah. He goes, if anyone's in the industry long enough, people are going to insult you. Sometimes they're insulting you because maybe you're acting like a jerk. But more frequently, in my experience, you get insulted because the other person's having a bad day, they're angry, they were surprised at something, or they don't understand something, and you're the punching bag. You're the person they can go at. So let's go through this, and I'm going to talk about it. And for each one, I'll give you some context. I'll tell you what the person said, then I'll give you a little context. So let's start with the insults. By the way, the first 3 are related. I found the first one in my notes. I'm like, oh yeah, that reminds me of this other one. While I was looking for the other one, I found the third one. So let's go through it. The first time I was insulted, the person looked at me and said, you're a temp here at this company. People like you don't stay in the game industry. Do you know what he meant by people like me? Like roguishly handsome programmers? No. He said that because my resume listed my master's degree in computer science. And his opinion was academics don't belong in the game industry because they don't stay in the industry because they think they're better than everybody else. And I was like, whoa, okay, this person has some issues. And apparently I was there, so I was going to bear the brunt of his issue. Related to that was somebody once said, you think you're so smart. And I had no idea where this is coming from. We were talking about a game. And when I asked him, why do you think I'm so smart? And he goes, I saw your resume. Your master's degree is listed on it. And I'm like, yeah. First of all, why were you looking at my resume? I mean, it was just in a folder, in some network folder. And should I not put that on there? What are you saying I should? You just put that on there because you think you're so smart. And I'm like, I put it on there because I think years of being academically taught how to code has some relevance to being a programmer here at a company as a professional. If I left it off, wouldn't that kind of be a misrepresentation? He wasn't having any of it. But the third one is the one that capped this and made me just go, what is going on here? Somebody said to me once, we were talking about something, and he said he had actually complimented me on something. Well, let me tell you what he said. He goes, I'm tired of your false modesty. I didn't know what to say. What had happened was we were talking about something, and he had complimented me for picking the right feature. And my response was, well, on that one, I think I just got lucky because there were 2 or 3 features we were banding around, and I did that one, and it worked, and it was good. So that whole thing about false modesty, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm glad that feature ended up in the game, and I was the one who put it in, but I just picked it. Of the 3, I thought I'll do that one first. I mentioned it. Later on, I mentioned it to a coworker, and he said, I can explain it to you. He takes credit. He makes sure everybody gives him credit for things, and he likes to take credit for some things he doesn't do. So the idea of anyone being humble doesn't even cross his brain. So he thinks you're lying to make people double down and go, "Oh no, you were really smart in that." He thinks you're lying and pushing back so you can get a double compliment. I'm like, okay, but he didn't compliment me again after that. And he goes, because he thinks he's on to you. And I'm like, okay, okay. The fourth insult I found, and I think I mentioned this in another video, but I couldn't find it. Somebody passed me in a stairwell and just stopped and angrily said to me, "What's the color of the sky in your world?" And I went like, whoa. I asked him what the problem was, and it was because someone had just gotten fired who was a friend of his. I think I've told this story vaguely before. I'll tell it really quickly, vaguely again. One day, it was towards the end of the day, I was working on something. A producer came in, let's call him Bob. And Bob said, "Hey, I need you to do this task for me." And I said, "Okay, what do you want done?" And he explained it. And I said, "That'll take me a couple days. Have you talked to my boss?" And he said, "Yeah, I talked to your boss and he approved it." And I said, "Well, I'll finish up what I'm doing now. Tomorrow morning I'll start on it. So I should have it end of day after tomorrow." He goes, "Okay." And he left. I wrapped up. I was leaving. The way I left took me right by my boss's office. The exit door was right next to his office. And he was sitting at his desk. So I just said, "Hey, just to let you know, I finished this and this today. But now for Bob, I'm doing Bob's task for the next 2 days." And he just looked up and went, "What task?" And I said, "This thing for Bob. He told me he ran it by you and you approved." He goes, "I haven't talked to Bob about anything like that." And I said, "Well, he told me to work on it the next 2 days." He said, "Don't do that. Work on the tasks I gave you." So I went home. Next day, at the end of the day, a lot of people were fidgeting and stuff. And I asked people what was going on. And they said Bob had been let go. He'd been fired. And I went to my boss and I asked what happened. And he said he went to the executive producer to complain about Bob trying to take one of his people, me. I was a programmer for this guy, to get him to do other work. And it turns out that was the third big complaint against Bob that had happened. There were 2 other producers who had had 2 different complaints about him. All of these ended up going into HR. And when my boss complained, HR said, "Well, this is the 3rd time we've gotten a complaint about this guy in the last 2 months." So he was let go. Now the guy who yelled at me in the hallway was basically mad at me because he was like, "You got him fired and you don't even think you're responsible." And when I was like, I don't understand. All I did is tell my boss, "Hey, I'm going on to Bob's work tomorrow." And that started a chain of events that Bob started. And that's when he was like, "You don't understand anything." That was why he said, "What's the color of the sky in your world?" He was like, "You don't see anything for what it is. You got Bob fired." I'm sorry, to this day, I don't really think I got Bob fired. I think Bob lied to me. And when I happened to pass that lie on to my boss, everything unraveled for Bob. So I don't feel bad about Bob, and I don't think I should, but that's the context for that. After Fallout shipped, let me get to the I think this is the 5th one. After Fallout shipped, it was doing really well. And I think I've mentioned on this channel, I was told repeatedly, it's a grade B title, get it out so we can throw you on D&D. But towards the end, all the people were getting really excited about it, and then it shipped and it was doing really well. It was getting great press. They of course, they kicked off a sequel even before it shipped. I had another producer come by and goes, "I hear you being happy about this, but careful, you're getting too used to early success. It's going to your head." And I remember I just looked at him and I said, "Okay, Fallout's my 4th game in my career. This is the 2nd company I've worked at in my career, and my career is already 16 years old. What are you talking about, early success? And do you also mean I can't be happy about this? Because I'm damn happy about it, and I'm really proud of this game." And he was like, you're getting used to this success." And I'm like, okay. Related to that, about 3 years later, when I was at my own company, putting out its first game, Arcanum, somebody called me from the Fallout OG team and said, you need to stop resting on your laurels. And he was angry. This wasn't like, hey, you should stop doing this. He was like, you need to stop resting on your laurels. Took me a minute or two talking to him to make him tell me what he was talking about. It was because an ad had just come out from the publisher of Arcanum that mentioned Fallout, said from the creators of Fallout. And he was mad that we would do that. And I was like, well, the publisher wanted to do that, but it's not false. And Arcanum and Fallout are very similar. And he was like, well, you're just resting on your own. You're just going to rest on Fallout the rest of your career. And I'm like, I don't want to. That's why I'm making a new game at a different company. But he didn't want any of that. He was just like, you're resting on your laurels. And I'm like, okay. By the way, same guy. Resume came through. Bet your biddy Fallout was on it and all the stuff he had done on it. And the next one was, I had somebody tell me once that you just have book learning smarts, but no common sense. I've actually heard this from people, a couple people in the industry, and also someone in my family. And at the time, I was like, I've been in the business now more than 20 years in the game industry. And my degree was computer science with a specialty in AI. It's applicable, but I don't think everything I know can be tracked back to that. Plus, I was running a company, something I'd never been trained to do, and I didn't think I was that good at. But I don't know. I think I do have some common sense, and I don't know where that comes from. I think it's I think people just assume I'm going to be a lot more academic than I am casual. But I've heard that before. And then the last one, I know I've mentioned this one in one of my WildStar videos, was the time an artist at Carbine came into my office, sat down on the other side of my desk, and just said, I heard you suck at design. And I was so taken aback. That was the most direct insult, to my face insult I think I've ever gotten. And this was from an artist who had never designed anything, who had heard it from an artist who had never designed anything, who never knew what I had worked on in the past or what my roles were on those things. Because I asked him. In fact, when I asked him where this was coming from, he just goes, I'm just telling you what I heard. And I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? I don't think I suck at design, but, you know, if you have no design experience, and I've got some, you could say some of it's good and some of it's not. I don't know what to tell you. It was one of those things where I'm like, I think you're being manipulated and you don't even know it. This whole I heard stuff, you hear this in politics a lot. I heard. It's when somebody wants you to believe something because they want to believe it, but it's what some third party really, really has a reason for making people want to believe it. And that's when I went, okay, what's going on? And we talked for a while, and it was an interesting talk. But because I know when I mentioned it in the WildStar, somebody said, why didn't you take that guy to HR? And I'm like, that wouldn't have solved anything. I also found 3 times I got complimented in a very backhanded fashion. The first one was, you have a good personality for a programmer. This is a boss who actually was trying to compliment me because he thought I was running a team really well. And he just wanted to tell me that. But for some reason, he felt like he had to say, well, you're good personality, but, you know, compared to other programmers. Which made me go, has he ever hung out with programmers? Some of them are, you know, crazy funny people. But anyway, another one I get, and I get this from everyone. I get this from coworkers. I get this from friends. I get this at conferences. You're taller than I expected. And I never know what to do with that. Because first of all, I'm 6'1". Well, now I'm 6. You shrink when you get older, kids. Which sucks because it makes my BMI score go up. I don't know what that means, though. What do you mean you thought I would be shorter? Do I look like a short man? Or do I act like a short man? Or just what are you saying? I mean, I don't think I give any impression of my height. I'm sitting in a chair here. Most of the photographs I'd see of myself online is me sitting in a chair. I don't know. I've never known what to do with this one. And then a similar one is, I've heard this from a few people. You're better looking in person. And I mean, I've heard this from so many people that I'm like, what does it mean? I've asked people, what do you mean by that? And somebody said, oh, I think you're just your face is animated. In photographs, you come across a little, I really don't know what to do with that, because it makes me go, should I try to do something different when I photograph? I don't know. I literally don't know what to do with this. But anyway, I thought you guys would have fun hearing that. And I have 2 lessons for you to take from all this. 1, sometimes people will say things to you because they're angry or surprised, or they're just not thinking it through. So it's okay. If you're in the industry long enough, you are going to get insulted to your face. And it's okay. It's okay. If you think there's an element of truth in there, see if you can fix yourself. But many times it's got to just be people who are just angry. And then the second thing, if you're like me and you take detailed notes, be careful what you write down, because years later you're going to read it.